My name is Jeff Guerra. My sobriety date is July 31st, 2023, and I've been here since September 1st, 2023. I mean, it was pretty standard for a meth addict, like just running the streets, avoiding cops, using meth nonstop, throwing away my life for it. I had a family that loved me. I've grown kids. They all cared about me, and I just kind of told them all to piss off and went and smoked my meth around, hiding all over the valley. Just like I was the guy that would I'm the reason that people would say that's a bad neighborhood. I would break into houses. I would break into cars. I would sleep in them. I would break into like remodeled homes and yeah, just live in them and stuff and do my drugs in them. And yeah, that's what it was. It was just running from the law and not being accountable. And I threw away my whole life for that stuff, man.
And what sparked you wanting to get help? Was there any one specific moment that
Well,
you realized you needed help?
well, I know I needed help, but I needed help when my kids became adults. I That's when I decided to become a full-time meth head. And when I told them what I was up to, they were not pleased. Obviously, my kids are completely clean. They don't smoke, drink, nothing, and they love their dad, and they were not happy with my decision. And I was just so deeply entrenched in my addiction that I wanted to get clean, but I wanted to get clean, but I wanted to still smoke meth, which makes no sense. But that's druggy logic right there. And that was about 4 years ago, and I've struggled to get clean, but really didn't know how to, but I didn't know how to hold myself accountable either. I would go to sober living houses, and I would continue to smoke meth and sell meth at them, and go, I don't know how to get clean because I'm around all these other meth heads. But really, really I was the one enabling everyone else at the house, bringing the meth into the house. And yeah, I couldn't see I couldn't see the solution was in my own hands. I just had to change my own behavior. I was that mired in my addiction.
And when you did reach out for help, did you go to treatment, or what did that look like for you?
Well, I tried going to treatment, but the challenge there was that treatment right now, especially at detox facilities, is primarily focused on fentanyl and opiate treatment and alcoholism. And if you have, like when I went to Buena Vista, I went in there, tried to go in there for detox, and they actually turned me away because my insurance doesn't detox for meth. And which makes sense because really with meth, you just kind of have to sleep it off.
Yeah.
But because of that, I mean, it was a real setback for me because I would hear that and I would just give up. And finally, one time last July 31st, I smoked the last bit of my meth, walked to Buena Vista and went in. They turned me away from the detox. I called up my parents and told them I was really trying to get some help. And luckily they believed me. And so they just kept calling Buena Vista on the hour every hour until there was a room available for me on the residential side, and got me in 14 hours later.
And how did you hear about Plugged In, and how did you make the decision to go to sober living again?
Well, I wanted to get clean, but obviously my priority, because I was still in the meth mode of thinking, was like, well, where am I going to live when I get out of rehab? I'm going to just go back to the streets and use if I don't have a plan. I knew that was enough, but at Buena Vista, Wade would come in and speak once a week, and I liked what he had to say, and I knew enough in there to know that I didn't know how to get clean on my own, but this guy seemed to know how to get clean, and so I asked him, if I work it out with my parents, well, can they set something up where I just go straight from the rehab to one of your houses? And he said, yeah. And he gave me his number, and I gave it to my dad. And a week later, I was set up to come here. And then as soon as I finished my treatment, I got in an Uber from Buena Vista and came straight to this house. And I've been living here since, and I've been clean since. And yeah.
And what has your experience been like compared to your other times in sober living?
Well, the other times in sober living, so the other time I was in sober living, I spent 6 months in a sober living house selling meth out of the house, and I was the only person to not ever get kicked out of the house. They couldn't figure out where the meth was coming from, and eventually I did have a conscience. Eventually, I told them, but the difference here is the accountability. They never drug tested me there. They just assumed that because I wasn't that guy causing huge problems in the house, noticeably that it couldn't have been me selling the meth in the house, but it was. It was all me. And the at this house, I get drug tested all the time. Uh, I have chores I have to do. I have rent I have to pay. My parents don't pay it for me. I know a lot of people do. But this other house, it was like one of those insurance scam houses where you don't pay rent, you know. So that's how I got away with it. But this house, you know, I had to get a job. I had to be accountable. Uh, Not only that, but there's a weekly house meeting in this house, which is pretty rigorous. The Wade shows up, you show up, Eric, and if you don't like what you're hearing, you ask questions, and I appreciate that because it keeps me accountable, it keeps everybody else accountable. But everybody in this house seems really geared to wanting to stay sober, and there's people who struggle with it, but we're all here to help each other and to hold each other accountable and to find a way to stay sober. And that's something, that camaraderie I didn't feel at this other house that I was at. This house, it's about staying clean.
And for anybody who's watching this that might be on the fence about going to treatment or sober living, do you have any like advice or words of encouragement for them?
Well, it was the best decision I ever made in my life, was getting clean this time around. And that was precipitated by another best decision in my life, though, which was understanding that I didn't know how to do it myself. When I got to Buena Vista, I told them, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm here to defer to your expertise on how to get clean, and I'm just going to do anything and everything you tell me to, because that it won't be any worse than the decisions I've already made.
And what role did the 12 steps play in your journey?
Well, at first I didn't. At first I was kind of suspicious of them. Just again, that methamphetamine mindset of being suspicious about everything. But once I actually started applying the steps, I figured, well, I don't know, maybe these will work. I'm gonna give it an honest try. I'm actually going to give it a wholehearted, honest try, not to try and prove it wrong, but to hopefully prove it right. And I've gone full gusto with them, and I live those steps every day. I try and find a way to. There's always another person that I find that I can probably make amends to. There's always another resentment that I probably have like wrapped up inside me that I haven't expressed, because like I've been doing meth for 30 years, so there's plenty of that to go around. But I live the 12 steps every day, and I try and find a way to do my best to live them throughout the day. And I try to encourage my housemates to do the same. So.
All right. Well, we are going to give you your certificate here.
Thanks, man.
Congratulations.
11 months.
11 months coming up on a year of sobriety,
Yep,
man.
I know.
Why don't we just finish the video off and give you an opportunity to say thank you to whoever's helped you or supported you along the way.
I want to thank Wade Sr., you, Eric. I want to thank Dominic, house manager here. He became my friend when I wouldn't talk to anybody in the house when I first got here. He made it a point to hold me accountable and to check in on me every day. He didn't have to do that. He's been my friend, he's been my support ever since I've gotten here, every step of the way. Without that guy, I probably wouldn't be sober today. Probably would. I know I wouldn't. And I want to thank my parents too. Like I still have a lot of resentments around them, but they saw me in a moment when I didn't have to call them for help. I could have just gone back out on the streets and used, and they didn't have to say we'll help you. And they were wary of it, but they were willing to try. And I'll never forget that, because it saved my life, and it saved my life and my relationship with my kids.
Well, thank you, Jeff, and congratulations, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, Eric.